There's a short story that's a perfect example of how diabolical some women can be and have no problem taking advantage of a good guy to get what they want. And also an example, they'll have fun with the bad boys on the side, but they always want the nice guy to clean up their messes. And this guy here is learning this quite well. Titled, "My ex put me on the birth certificate for a kid that is not mine. State is trying to take my tax refund. Do I have any way out of this now?" And a shout out to all you guys that sent that over. A bunch of you guys sent this. Now listen to this. And I might add, this guy definitely has been a bit procrastinator, as you're going to see. He says, I live in Georgia. I'm 31 years old. Around 3 years ago, I was dating S for about 8 months. Okay, I'm not going to call her S. We'll call her Samantha. The relationship was messy and we broke up. A couple months later, she messages me saying that she's pregnant and the timeline could be mine. I asked for a paternity test when the baby was born. She got angry with me, blocked me and everything, and I did not hear from her again. I assumed that she either was not actually pregnant or the kid turned out to be somebody else's kid and she moved on. Okay, I can see how you would think that, but I know she's saying it could be yours. Well, fast forward to this January. Okay, so he's talking about January 2025, and it is now November 2025 right now. I got a letter from child support enforcement saying I owe back support for a 2-year-old child with Samantha as the mother and my name listed as the legal father. Hang on a second here. He wasn't there when the child was born. He didn't sign a birth certificate, so what could happen? Well, I reached out to Samantha, and she admitted in text that the biological father is most likely another guy that she was seeing, but that he was not stable and she needed somebody else on the birth certificate, so the hospital would not give her trouble. She's actually admitting this on text. She needed somebody else on the birth certificate. It's most likely not you. How dumb is that? But okay. She says the nurse told her if she had a name for the father and he was not there, she could just write it in. Obviously, that is highly illegal, but I can't say I'm surprised by this. I'm sure this nurse has experience in this. She wrote my full name and birthday and had me listed as the father at the hospital. Well, this is massive fraud. She says she figured if I got a letter, I would just step up or ask for a test. But when I did not show up at the original hearing, the judge entered a default order. I guess this is how I became the legal dad of a kid I never had even met. Well, I wouldn't put it past the judge. And again, they don't know the whole situation, that she just wrote it down. And now she's admitting it by text. Freaking moron. And obviously the mail went to his old address. He never got it. But the state doesn't care. The state says pay because they don't want to pay for it. Holy crap, that is evil. But again, let's go back to the fact that this happened in January. He's waiting all this time? Are you out of your mind, dude? Child support has now taken my state tax refund and says my federal one is next. I went to legal aid and they told me there is something called disestablishment paternity or disestablishing paternity. But the deadlines and rules are strict and depend on when I knew or should have known about the order. Well, I'm going to go back to him and his tax refund in November. I guess he probably filed for an extension back in April 2025, and then filed it at the last date in the middle of October, and now he's getting his refund. That's what makes sense to me, because I'm like, wait a second here. I only learned about any of this in January. Yeah, but it's November, idiot. The order itself is from 2022. I have text messages from Samantha from last week, where she basically says I'm not the biological father. I also never signed anything at the hospital or in the court. All of it is in her handwriting and the clerk stamps. My question is, in Georgia, do I have a realistic chance to get this order undone and get my name off the birth certificate as support case since I was never properly served and there's pretty strong evidence I'm not the biological father? If so, is this something I can write and file on my own, or do I actually need a private attorney? You bet your butt you need an attorney, dude. You're in deep crap. Is there any criminal angle here for Samantha writing my information on official forms, or will the court just look at this as a messy personal problem and tell me to suck it up and keep paying? You can bet your butt that the state wants you to keep paying no matter what, not care, and probably a judge might enforce that. But absolutely, brother, you need to hire a lawyer. You should have done it when you got the notice back in January. Why the hell did you wait so long here, for God's sakes? It's amazing they didn't come out and try to arrest you or something like that. But there you go, guys. This goes to show how evil and diabolical some women can be. I guess some people may say this is bullshit, but it's not impossible that you could have some nurse that's just whisper, we could just write down his name or something like that. People aren't looking. It's happening. Deliveries late at night. I don't know. And signing in, off you go. But absolutely get a lawyer and find a way of handling this thing. And I'd be going for a lawsuit. A lawsuit against her, a lawsuit against the hospital, the nurse, everybody and anybody that permitted this fraud. But until you do something about it, in the eyes of the state, hey, you're some deadbeat dad not paying, and they're coming after you. End of freaking story here. But again, guys, this is my whole point. Now, a few comments here, because I can't resist. One guy says here, okay, first of all, I don't know the law in your state, but in most states, a woman cannot just put a name on a certificate. If the guy is not present, generally they have to sign to acknowledge of the paternity. You need an attorney ASAP. As possible, she went on public assistance and listed you as the possible father. Even then, the state generally requires a test and paternity to be acknowledged before they do just that. Otherwise, Brad Pitt would be on everybody's birth certificates. Regardless, it is not impossible that some nurse who's supposed to be overseeing this decided to do this because of her own personal reasons. Another one. He says, you only learned about this 10 months ago. From a legal standpoint, you have denied the child financial support for 10 months without proceeding it to court to get it cleared up as soon as possible. In most states, de-establishing paternity is more complicated after the child's second birthday. You need to get legal advice from legal aid about the forms you'll need the process. I don't care if he doesn't have any money. Find anybody to give him money to get a lawyer. I don't care if he has to be panhandling in front of Costco. He needs to get money to pay for a lawyer. He can't do this himself. While you can navigate this pro se, I highly recommend something as serious as paternity and back child support to be guided by a good family law attorney and your jurisdiction. The key to this case is getting the mother to consent to allowing the child to participate in paternity testing or to have it court ordered. There are so many variables, you really need an attorney. How people get themselves in such messes is beyond me. It's not his fault for what happened to him, but it is his fault for waiting so darn long to do something about this. And one more, this guy's attorney, paternity test, court, if paternity test is refused. Let them issue the order for it. Ensure that you sue for legal costs and any erroneous child support paid. Additionally, if they were messages admitting that the child is likely somebody else's, get them to say them and supply it to your attorney. Yeah, by her saying that in the freaking text, that's a gold mine for him, but regardless. If you also have the record of your ex refusing the initial request for paternity, don't let her know. Let your attorney do the talking. If you don't, I'd recommend asking via text for a paternity test, and if she refuses, you have evidence of the refusal. Take that to your attorney as well. If she says yes, great, make sure that the paternity test is done by a lab so it's admissible in court. At-home kits are cheaper, but they aren't up to the court's standards, so you'll have to take another one to the court if it comes back negative and you want your name removed from the birth certificate. Well, there you go. Everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. Get an attorney yesterday, and you should have dealt with this when you first got the notice. I mean, how dumb can you be? And this isn't like, it was circling around the mail all this time. This went to his new address in January, and he's just poking around to this point. So, two main things from this story, guys. Women can be diabolical and evil, and don't be a procrastinator with something that can really harm you like this happens. Holy crap. And again, it comes down to some judge who doesn't care, and that's that. Good luck, dude.